Morning folks, welcome back to the channel. We've got our S Limited today, which we got hold of this car a few months ago. It belonged to a customer of ours. We actually sold it to him in the first place, but we'll do more on that later on. But the reason we've got this car out, just flip the camera around for you, is we've got some eye-back springs to fit on it, which have been supplied to us by the lovely people at MX5 Parts. So the story behind this car is, as many of you will know, is that S Limiteds normally have Bilstein suspension, which a lot of people in the UK don't like because it doesn't suit the UK roads very well. It's just a bit too firm and it's not much fun. So the owner of this car, what he had us do some years ago was fit new original shocks and springs from like a standard car, but we don't like the way it sits. And we don't mind the ride being a little bit bumpy, so we've got some eye-back springs to fit. So the guys are going to show you a brief description of how they are fitted. We do already have a video on how to fit Gaz shocks and springs, so that goes into way more detail in terms of the fitting. We'll show you the basics on this video and then how to sort of remove those springs, or remove your original springs from the shocks and fit the eye-back springs, but we won't go into full detail of how to remove them. We'll give you a general guide. But what we're going to do first of all is Roy is going to show us the ride height as it sits now, so you've got a good comparison of how it changes the ride height. Now that won't be the same for everyone because, you know, some cars have sunk a bit, or imports tend to be a bit lower sometimes, but at least you'll see on this one where it sits now and in relation to how it will sit afterwards. All right, so Roy, what we're going to do is measure from the centre of the wheel to the top of the arch. What have we got there, Roy?
14 inches.
What are inches, Roy?
I don't know.
Okay, so we've got 14 inches. How many millimetres have we got?
It's 3,000.
3,000 millimetres? No, come on. Right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to zoom in.
Yeah.
So we've got 14 and a bit inches, or we've got 357 millimetres. Right, that's on the front. So rear.
Yeah, 3,000.
That's like 3 metres.
That's not Mark III territory.
Bit early in the morning, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
And on the rear, straighten up a bit. Oh wait, that's it. On the rear we've got, so centre of the wheel, and then we're getting right where the blob is on the tape measure, so about 346 millimetres, or just over 13.5 inches. So what the guys are going to do now is going to get the car up in the air. They'll give you the brief description of how to remove the shocks, and then I'll join them a bit later on once it's all done and show you the difference in ride height and how the car looks. So Roy's running away. We will be doing a whole video on this car and our RS once the weather improves and we're allowed to go out and do things. Anyway, right, we'll join you in a bit.
Alright, welcome back. As you can see, now I've got the car up on the ramp. I'm just going to give you a quick, brief showing on what we're going to remove, which bolts have got to be undone. So Ashley, if you'd like to come in. So we're going to start on the front. So if you have an under tray left on your car, you will need to remove this. It's held on with a series of 10mm bolts. So to remove the front shock, you need to undo this 17mm bolt at the bottom of the shock here, undo the anti-roll bar drop link on one end, either or. Once this is removed, the anti-roll bar bracket has two 12mm bolts going through it. You will need to drop them down. No, to take them right out, but you will need to pull them down because you need to undo this big 21mm bolt in the top. So it's obviously bolted there, the nuts this end, and because you need to be able to drop them down to slide that out, which then gives you access to drop this back under the top bolts on the shock, and then you can push that down and lift the shock out once this is all undone. On the rears, it's not as bad. So top arm bolt here, undo this one to allow free movement of that. Again, drop link bolt, undo that, take that out. Your 17mm bolt in the bottom of the shock, in here. And then through the boot access, you have two 14mm nuts on the top of the top hat on the side. That's all you need to remove to actually get these shocks and springs out. So we're going to cut off now, and we're going to remove the shocks and springs from the car, and we'll come back to actually replacing the springs in a minute. See you in a bit. Right, welcome back. We just want to quickly briefly touch on what to remove in the boot, just quickly, because there's obviously there's still a few more bits to take off. So as you can see, you cannot see the top of the rear struts. So if you have still got one in your boot, you will need to remove the spare wheel. So obviously centre bolt, undo that. Slow it down. So remove that, and as you can see, there's your strut top. So you got one nut there and one nut there to undo. The other side, we have obviously removed this. And then obviously you peel back your carpet, like that.
This car's got additional carpet, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
That looks like that's been glued over the bolts.
It does look like it's been glued over the bolts, but we can re-glue it, that's fine. Yeah.
Normally if there is carpet there, there's a couple of push clips.
Yeah, it's not
around
just,
the edge that you just need to
it's been bolted as well. Okay, so let me just briefly.
We'll pause the video and then show that once we've got it off.
Yeah. So obviously you've got this plate back here, so you've got four 10mm bolts, one there. There should be one there, and one just round here. So remove this plate, and then you'll be able to gain access to the other shock like you did the other side. We'll see you in a bit. Right, welcome back. So now we've got the shocks and springs off the vehicle. Now a lot of people have asked this on different forums, etc. So I just want to clarify a few things now. So on the front, you have a Yes, very short. Yeah, on the rears, you have a short shock, long spring. On the fronts, you have a long shock, short spring. I've seen it many times on different various posts on what goes where. So, as you saw earlier, we are fitting a set of IBAC springs. So hopefully it should make it a lot nicer. Supplied by MX5 Parts. To remove the springs from these shocks, you don't go old school and just buzz them off and hope that it doesn't kill you in the process. There's a couple of ways you can do them. You can get a pair of these from most motor factors. I don't like these in the bin, so we're going to use one of these compressors here. So we do. There we go. So I'm going to take the tension out of the spring so that when you buzz the top hat off, it doesn't go bedoing flying. So, is it 17? One spring removed. In the bin. So, front. So as you can see in comparison, there's a bit of a height difference there. So, I should see what they come out like. So again, you put your spring in your cups. Always make sure they're seated properly as well. If you look, they've got seats. actually in the cups for the springs to sit round. If you don't and you wind them up, you'll hear an almighty ping crack and you'll want to run for your life. So being as they're a little bit shorter, we won't have to compress them quite as much as what we were. So insert your shock back up through there. Just spin round. Get rid of that washer for a second. So on the shocks, they have a flat face just there, and if you look through there, there's also a flat surface in the top mount, like that. Washer, nut back on. Sometimes the shock does twist inside the body, so this is obviously, this can be moved slightly. Obviously it's got to be in a relevant position top to bottom, so you can move them. So you've got to make sure that these are lined up in the correct space into these, which if I'm rightly, it's just dead flat, so it's fine. So, well, that knocks on quite a way, so we'll release some of the tension. Excuse my big head for a second. There we go, right. And then we'll just nip. Just nipped it up for now. When it's back in the car, we'll go around and just double check them all once the weight of the car's on them. But we really should have got another spring compressor.
It's wedged in there.
One lowering spring attached to original shock. So we've got the other three to do, and we're getting back fitted on the car, and then we shall do a height test. See you in a bit.
Okay, so the guys have fitted the springs now, and hang on, let me swing the camera around. So I think you'll agree, it just looks way better. Just looks kind of how it should do, as far as I'm concerned. Probably much closer to how it was on the Bilsteins originally. Roy's already taken it out for a drive to let them settle. He said it's driving nicely, it's not crashy or anything like that. But yeah, just way the car. What I didn't like before was it was really high on the front, and it was almost like it was sitting up at the front. I just didn't like that look at all. We could have gone for a Gaz or something like that, or Meister, but I didn't want to go too far away from standard with the car. We have got a set of Bilsteins up in the up in our storeroom that we'll just keep for this car, but personally I don't tend to like them on it anyway. So Roy, you armed with your measure tape?
I am indeed.
I can't remember what it said before, but you guys will know because it was only a few minutes ago for you.
14 and a bit inches.
Oh, that's right, you were measuring in, old man,
Oh man.
even though you're the same age as me.
Dramatic drop.
Right, what have we got? So we're now, yeah, big drop, yeah. So 310 millimeters or 12¼ inches, I think that is. So yeah, so that's some 2-inch drop, isn't it?
Yep.
Pretty much. Which is probably more than what it suggests on the, you know, on the spec for the springs. But what you've got to remember is that this car was on brand new suspension anyway. So, you know, a lot of other cars will be sitting a bit lower than that anyway. So it's never an exact science with springs because it depends what your car's actually doing. So this one, yeah, so we're 12¼ again and 31 again. So yeah, so you can see the difference there, whereas the other car, you know, with the other springs, it was definitely higher at the front than it was at the back, and now the car's sitting nice and level, which is good. All right, so, oh, it's bloody camera. Why do they change things? Right, so yeah, so thanks for watching this video. Thanks to MX5 Parts for supplying us with those springs. Link is in the description, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, bye.